Welcome, gamers, to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We're on episode 119. My name is Craig Perales, and joining me, as always, Manager Montemayor.
You know, lately it's been really weird around here because it's been hot outside at the start of January to where I can't wear a sweater, but it's like freezing today. It's actually really cold.
Yeah, I did notice that it is starting to go back up. Like, it almost seemed like winter was here for like 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And then now it's like back. But yeah, I noticed yesterday it went back down. So I was almost going to pop a sweater on, but I haven't been outside it today. So inside it's still, not bad. Not too shabby.
No, I feel perfect in this right now. Whereas, like, literally the past, 3 days, I'm like, fuck, man, I'm, sweltering in this sweater.
Sweltering, he says. So, if you guys are listening to the audio version of our podcast, check us out on Anchor, where you can get redirected to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you guys are watching it on YouTube, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and if you can, share it to a friend so that we can get more eyeballs on the show as we slowly grow. And if you guys are interested in checking out any of the social media we do, our Linktree link is in the description. You guys it'll take you to Facebook, it'll take you to Instagram, it'll take you to our Twitter. But as it happens, guys, we like to drink beers on the show. So today's beer is the Firestone Walking Brew Company produced Mind Haze. Now, we've had this beer before, so I won't dive too much into it. It's an 88, which is a very good score. We get this off of Beer Advocate, which is the site we use to look at the ranked beers. It's an IPA New England, and it sits at a 6.2% alcohol. And we were talking about it a little bit earlier. Yeah, I mean, I remember enjoying this beer, so now that I'm drinking it again, it's I wish it was a little colder. It wasn't in my fridge for too long, but still not bad.
Yeah, the other day you told me about it, and you're like 6.2%, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know if I want to really drink that, but whatever. And then I got here, and as soon as I seen the can, I was like, oh, okay, I remember this being good, but I specifically more so remember us drinking both of them, and then after the show, getting a little tore up because it caught up to us because we were drinking the extra one, saying oh, I don't really feel anything. It's not that big a deal. So
yeah, that 6.2 will creep up on you real quick.
You ended up having to edit the show the next day, or I think it was midnight after you took a nap.
Yeah, I ended up falling asleep on it. So if you guys want to recommend a beer for us, you always can. Leave it in the comments down below. Yeah, that's sipper time. Leave it in the comments down below, and we'll be more than happy to try to find it, or just grab a beer and drink along with us. So before we get into our main stories, we're going to do What Are You Up To? Where we take a second, talk about what we've been playing, what we've been watching, if we got any cool trips being planned. So I'll start it off this week because what we've been playing was a game Andrew and I actually played together with my brother Geno, and it was Aliens Fire Team. I just buckled there. And that game came out on August 24th, 2021, developed by Cold Iron Studios, published by Cold Iron, as well as Focus Entertainment. It's a pretty solid game. It's a good game, but something in there is missing. And I know we were kind of talking about it. It seemed like it was missing more variety. So you got different kits that you can do, like the gunner, the demolition, the dock, and things like that. So they all have their own kind of unique outline and then their special abilities. But as far as the guns went, even though I had 30 attachments, it didn't seem like there was a big difference in what my guns were doing. And outside of, I think I bought one gun. I went from a rifle to a DMR, or an automatic rifle to a DMR. And it's other than that, I kept my shotgun the whole time. So it seemed like the base weapons were still the strongest weapons. How did you like it?
Yeah, I used the same AR the whole time too. And that's my biggest complaint is at least give me the illusion of difference. So 2 ARs, maybe one of them has a bigger mag but fires slower, aim down sight slower. The other one shoots faster, but maybe doesn't do as much damage. Something like that, I think it really, really would have benefited from, because it's kind of weird the way it plays through, because it almost it wants to be a looter shooter because it drops you some loot from crates and stuff, not from the enemies or anything. But it doesn't fully commit to it. It's a halfway into one, and I think this would have been I think this game could stand to be one. And I think one of my favorite things about it, because I actually really did enjoy it, it's fairly quick, so you could easily get through it. It's on the Game Pass, that's how we played it, is that even towards the end while we were playing, we're like, oh shit, there's new enemies. All right, cool, whatever. We're still playing again. Then in the next level towards the end, when you should have seen almost about everything that you normally would see in a game, new enemies, and then new enemies, and then a few more new enemies. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. They're really taking that Alien universe from every direction, the movies, the other game, and they're putting it all here. And then they have some newer stuff in there too. And I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, and that's maybe just because I actually like that IP. Maybe if it was I don't know, they made up their own aliens and it was some made up game or something, I wouldn't have cared for it as much. But I really liked it. I had fun.
It's cool because it's kind of like Outriders. It's a 3-person team. You know, me, him, and my brother went in and played it. It's a 4-piece campaign, each with broken into 3 different parts. And then after you beat the game, you get to do like the horde mode and the wave and defending modes and things like that. And you can keep playing. And I am still playing it. Like there's a daily challenge. Like every day you log on, you can do challenges to get money and credits and things like that to buy other things in the game. Since this is still a fairly recent game and it's only been out for a few months, I could see it still becoming something. Like it still has time to either patch itself up, because the biggest problem I had with it was a big glitch that when we were playing, my character was a level like 6 or 7 at the time when we were playing, and when I jumped into Andrew's group to start it, it set me back and I was a level 4 and all the guns and stuff that I bought were missing. So
I remember
it sucks. So it is a little bit glitchy. If you guys were interested in playing it, I'd say maybe wait a little bit, because even trying to get into each other's lobbies, sometimes we had an issue. But other than that, I can see this game becoming something pretty cool and pretty special. As a big Aliens fan for the campaign, is it pretty tight and well with the movies, or is this something that was completely like standalone?
I mean, it's.
I remember you were calling stuff out. You were like, "Oh, that's from this."
It's got like a mixture of both. Like it's got a lot of like fan service in there, and it's kind of tied in with some of the movies and stuff. But it's not even just like the regular movies. It actually covers like the newer ones, like Prometheus and stuff, where they introduce like the Forerunners. It's even got the Seegson robots, which is from Alien Isolation, which is that Sega game that came out at like the start of last generation, which I thought was truly amazing. So it was pretty cool to see them take inspiration from everywhere and bring it all into like a solo thing. I know that you said, I forgot to ask you about it yesterday, so maybe you can tell me now. There was an achievement you got. What was that achievement? Because you're like, Andrew, I ended up getting that achievement.
Oh, there was the Intel achievement. There's a achievement for getting there's pieces of intel on each campaign, on each section. So when I beat the game, I was missing 2, but it showed it in different spots. So out of like the first chapter, there's 3. It showed I was missing the first one. When I went back to play it, it wasn't there. I couldn't pick it up. So I just continued the mission, and I ended up being the 3rd one. So it was a little out of order. So when I was playing it the other day and it wasn't there, I just turned it off. But then the next day, when I'm like, I'll just finish the mission and see, I found it. So I ended up getting the last 2 pieces of intel. So if you were looking to get it, you'd have to look for every spot, because the ones you're missing might not be the one that shows up on the list. So that was kind of annoying. But other than that, really solid game. I'm curious what they do next. Anything else on Aliens you want to talk about?
Nah.
So as far as what I'm watching, I started watching Peacemaker, but we have somebody that asked a question about Peacemaker, so I'll save that towards the end. That's it for me. What do you got going on?
Besides Aliens Fireteam, I really haven't been watching anything else. I kind of maybe had like a little, I don't want to say video game fatigue, but I haven't really wanted to play anything lately. So I think I know I promised you guys last week I was going to stream. I think I'm going to really try to get it set up and everything tomorrow. Maybe I just was being lazy and didn't want to set everything up. But I did watch a documentary. It's a little bit older, and I think I'd seen it before, but I don't think I really appreciate it as much because I wasn't really into comics as much as I am now. It's called With Great Responsibility, and it's a Stan Lee story, and you can actually find it on YouTube. It's actually pretty long, and it covers him from like his beginning at Marvel to the rise when they became like juggernauts, and then they start doing the movies and everything like that. And I just thought it's a really super interesting story, and it's just especially now that he's gone, going through and watching this, I think even in life, anytime I'd ever seen like an interview with him, he was always such like a nice guy. But going back and watching this thing, I'm like, dude, he's like he's the nicest guy.
Yeah, he's a gentleman. Because it's an older one. It's like 2010, right?
I think it said 17.
2017. Ooh. Yeah, no, I remember seeing it, and it was a while ago. But it's just nice seeing some of that old, young Stan Lee footage, and that one had, I think, quite a bit in it.
Yeah, it had a lot in there, too, of him without the mustache. I'm like, who the fuck's that? I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. That's it. Like, it's so weird, but I don't know. Really, really good watch. So, it's free on YouTube, so definitely go check that out if you're looking for something like that.
Nice. Is that everything?
Yep.
Alrighty, guys. So, we're going to move into our first main story, and that is that the PS5 is still getting more delays, but Sony has like this weird approach, and they think the answer is making more PlayStation 4s, which is kind of odd. So if you guys remember, Andrew and I have talked about this all through pretty much last year, that the PS5, especially due to the pandemic, ran into very slow productions, and they had huge chip shortages because the chips that they use are also the same ones that are in the Xboxes, or at least the Xbox Series X. And the difference is, like, the Xbox was still selling really well, and mainly because of the Series S at $300, because unlike the PS5 and the PS5 digital, that's pretty much the same system being made, just without a disk drive, where the Xbox Series X and S are two different machines. So it's been easier for people to find the Series S in the wild because it's not using everything that the PlayStation and the Xbox are using. But it is still fair to say that the PS5 is still the more in-demand console compared to Xbox. People still want the PS5 more. So they're reported that they're going to be making more PS4s for people that can't find it, which is a pretty odd answer in my opinion. So I'm going to read this article from Bloomberg real quick just to kind of catch you up. Then Andrew and I can kind of dissect and what we think about it. So it starts off saying, the strategy would add about 1 million PS4 units this year to help offset some of the pressure on the company's PS5 production, a figure that will be adjusted in response to demand, the people said. Let's see. The older console uses less advanced chips, it's simpler to make, and provides a budget-friendly alternative to the PS5. Increasing production orders by adding the cheaper-to-make PS4 would also give Sony more leeway when negotiating with manufacturing partners for a better deal, two of the people said. A Sony spokesperson confirmed PS4 production would continue this year and said the company had not planned to stop making the console. It is one of the best-selling consoles ever, and there is always crossover between generations, the company said. Sony's ambition with the PlayStation 5 was to make a quick transition to the latest hardware, PlayStation chief Jim Ryan has said. But the coronavirus pandemic slowed software development across the games industry while also triggering a surge in hardware demand that's made even the most basic of components scarce. The result has been a console that is hard to find and lacks a strong portfolio of must-have exclusive games. So, I mean, it's kind of what they're just pointing out is that the PS4 is not only going to be cheaper and easier to make, but it's going to kind of feed the hunger for people that want it. The only thing, and we were kind of discussing is like, well, who are you making this for? Because anyone that wanted a PlayStation 4 by now has gotten a PlayStation 4. I pulled up this list. And the PS4 is the top 5 best-selling systems, and the PS4 has already sold 116.6 million units. Now, that's huge compared to the other ones. If you look at like the Xbox One, it's only sold 51 million units. So out of the 116, if you've wanted one, you've got it already. Like who are you building 1 million more units for? So, I don't know. What did you look at? Did you think this was a good strategy moving forward, or this is kind of a waste of time and resources?
No, I didn't get it either. That was my exact thing. I'm like, who's this for? Because anyone who wants a PS5 isn't someone who didn't have a PS4 and is just now starting the generation. Like, I have to have a PS5. No, it's somebody who's already got a PS4, and now they're looking towards the next console. And I think what I found even like a little funnier with this thing, too, is now Sony's almost in a way like, I think this kind of makes them look a little bit more bad in a way that they're forced to eat their words, because at the start, we believe in generations, and we're going to separate everything. The games are only going to run on PS5, but now they've had to walk all that stuff back, and not just only when people are mad, like, okay, the next Horizon, the next God of War, these games that were supposed to be PS5 exclusives are actually going to be on PS4, and people are already mad about that. Now you can't even get the console as it was, and I think I saw a meme that was kind of like funny too. Is it's from that famous, and it goes Xbox both ways too. They're like, if you don't want an internet connection and there's a guy in a submarine, it's the famous Don Matrick quote. Well, we have a console for you. It's called the Xbox 360. When they were talking about the always online connection for the Xbox One, and then they had Don Matrick again with like a Sony outfit. It's like, if you can't get a PS5, we have the console for you, and it's the PS4 or whatever on there. And I just thought it was hilarious, because even still, let's say you go into the store, because as far as, and maybe it's just here locally, but I mean the sales figures, it's been up there. Why would you want to buy PS4 when you can get an Xbox Series S for the same price? Because again, there is a little bit of weakness right now with as far as like the exclusives or whatever coming out, and some of those, again, like I mentioned, the next Horizon, the next God of War are going to be on a PS4. So if I already have a PS4, I might as well play next gen running games on a next gen console with the Xbox Series S versus buying another PS4, or even if I already got rid of my PS4, just take the Series S, have that as for however long, and then sell it and get my PS5 whenever.
Yeah, I was thinking the same exact thing. Yeah, the option of not getting a PS5 isn't getting a PS4, it's getting the Xbox Series S.
Right.
Because, yeah, it's like I was saying, it is the cheapest next-gen entry point. And I don't know what 1 million more does. What is And even if you sold them all, what is 117? It doesn't budge anything. You know, I mean, there's other consoles that like you could see like, okay, if we sold 1 million more, that'd be great. But you're already the best-selling console. Like the demand for it, because if you look at what the PS5 has already sold, they've sold 13.4 million. So there's still, out of the 116 that own PS4, there's still more than 100 million people that want a PS5. They don't need the PS4. So the pros and cons, and Andrew kind of already pointed out a few, is if you, as a pro, if you need a PS4 or if you're looking to get someone a PS4, it's going to be a lower price now. I could see that they're probably going to start at $299, but they, in my mind, they'd have to go lower than that because then they have to make it worth getting it over a Series S. They gotta keep people in their space of staying in PlayStation instead of branching out and moving into being Xbox. The other thing is, we have Horizon and God of War coming, but the PS5 still hasn't made it a must-have system yet. Like, I love having the Series X and the PS5. Like, once you experience the faster load times and, like, the quick resume, it's extremely hard to go backwards. Like, because I have a Series or a 1S in my bedroom, and even when I play that instead of, like, it's just night and day, and it's like a struggle. So, the other thing is, there's no mandatory games yet. So, if you haven't experienced that, there's really nothing that would make you want to buy it. As far as the con goes, as someone that has the PS5, and Andrew kind of already said it means there's going to be less platform exclusives. It means that games that should have been exclusive on next-gen PS5, they are going to be doing the PS4. They are going to be doing PS5 crossovers, like, because they have to run it at the lowest common denominator, which is going to be a base PS4. So anyone that bought it was and hoping for these exclusive titles, you're now looking at them backtracking, which is scary business because we just saw what that did with Cyberpunk. It makes games that could have been great and ran fantastic on next gen, you're going to have more issues of games running slower and being buggy, being broken, and that's just not going to be good for anybody that has the PS4 or the PS5.
I don't know if maybe they're just being like short-sighted or like what it is, because it's weird to see like the different takes that both these like console manufacturers are like coming out with.
What were you peeking at over here?
I was trying to see what you had on, like, written down on something. Maybe I was just reading it weird.
Oh, I had your name written down. I thought maybe you saw manager on there and you were like, what did he say about me?
But, no, because after this report came out, a few days later, another report came out that Microsoft stopped manufacturing Xbox Ones, any sort of Xbox One, 1X, 1S, whatever, at the end of 2020. By the end of 2020 in December, they wanted to completely be done, and there's not going to be any more. And I didn't really think about it, but now that I haven't really seen any of those like out in the wild. I only have seen new consoles, and that seemed like that was a far better strategy to do. And I just don't understand why Sony maybe didn't have, okay, let's be done with this. And then even, Microsoft saw it coming. I don't get how they didn't either, especially when the pandemic and all that stuff and everything hit. I feel like it really hurt that side of the world more that makes decisions than it did here. It hit them harder first than it hit us, and Microsoft is based out of here. So how did they not know what Microsoft did to, all right, well, let's do this, and then we'll try to, figure something out.
The strategy that they made a separate console with different parts was kind of the answer, this story, the Xbox stopped, making things back in 2020, only popped up after people started saying the PS4 is going back into production, and it will be like, I think, last till the end of the year or something along those lines. And they made a smart decision. They're like, we're going to stop building this because we know we have the Series S that's going to be the gateway into Xbox. We don't need to make this anymore when for $299 you can get the Series S and at the time, no one saw the pandemic coming. Sony stood strong behind having the same SKU number, just one digital, one disc reading. And in the long run, it turns out that Microsoft had the better plan, making one system that was the more powerful one, and then the next one that was the lowest entry. So
I was just literally about to say that. At the time, I remember some people were like, oh, well, why would you want two and blah, blah, who's not going to get the stronger one? But now it makes perfect sense. I mean, I know we had always been kind of on board with that plan, but it goes to show now, genius move.
Yeah, it was perfect timing and perfect planning, at least in hindsight of what could have happened and the way the market has kind of shifted. But when the PS5 does finally go into the masses and you can find it, there's no doubt in my mind that it's still going to get gobbled up as quick as it can. But unfortunately, right now they've got no option, and I don't think PS4 is the right move. Like, I sold my PS4. I'm not going to go back and get another one just because it's $250.
Right. I think at that point too, like especially if let's say I had a PS4 and I sold it, or even so I don't have a PS4, I'm not going to go out and buy one to play these games. I'll just keep playing my Xbox, and then when PS5s are ready available, I'll get a PS5 and then I'll go back and I'll play God of War when it's discounted. I'll have all this backlog of game that'll be discounted by that depending on whenever everything comes out, but I'm not going to go buy a PS4 to play these games.
Yeah, the only thing I can look at that would be the motivator, and I kind of see where they're coming from, is if there are any PC only players or Nintendo Switch players or Xbox alone players that have never jumped into a PlayStation, which is just kind of hard to imagine since it is one of the biggest sold consoles, that if you did want to play Horizon and you've never owned a PlayStation, if you did want to play the new God of War and you've never owned a PlayStation, now would be the cheapest time to get the weakest box to play God of War on, instead of, if you can't play the PS5. So I can see it. It's just because PS4 is, I guess we didn't touch on that, is hard to find right now. They are scarce. You can't really just go into a store and buy a PS4 Pro anymore. Even on eBay and Amazon, people were having trouble finding them, and the ones they did were kind of overpriced. So if you are one of the few people that didn't have a PlayStation, now would be the time to get one because it's going to be the cheapest it's ever been. But I was also reading an article on The Verge saying that as of right now, that if you need a PS4 Slim, that Sony will sell one directly to you for the same $299 price it's charged since 2017, but you can only get one. It's limited to one per household. So I do see that number going down, though. I'd assume it's the rest of what they have. Yeah. So if you've never played it, now's the time to get it. It's just an odd choice to make only 100 million more to offset the 100+ million people that want to get a PS5. You know what I mean? Like that, right. It's an off balance. So I guess that's about it on that, unless there's anything else you want to add.
No.
Alrighty, guys. So leave in the comments down below your thoughts on Sony making a few more PS4s for the people that don't have a PS5.
Actually, I'm interested too. If any of you don't have a console or something like that, does that even speak to you? Would you just want to go get a PS4 and play the waiting game? Or let's say you didn't have a console and you had the choice between the PS4 and the Series S. Out of your choices of two, which would you choose?
Yeah, exactly. So, our second story, guys, is that the Dying Light 2 studio Techland just received a bunch of backlash. So, they made a pretty bold statement and covered over 3 different tweets about how big their game was going to be, and they were kind of using it as like a boast. And then, and I understand that they're proud of it. Their team made something big, especially compared to the last one, which was a sleeper hit, but it just rubbed fans kind of the wrong way. So this article comes to us from Video Games Chronicle, and it says, on Saturday, the game's official Twitter account claimed to fully complete Dying Light 2 Stay Human, you'll need at least 500 hours, almost as long as it would take to walk from Warsaw to Madrid. Dude, it's hilarious. While intended to be a positive statement, the tweet received some backlash from players who felt this was too long for a single game. Now Techland has posted another tweet explaining that the main story itself is only 20 hours in length. And it goes on to say, we wanted to clarify our recent communication about the amount of hours required to complete the game, the studio said on Monday. Dying Light 2 Stay Human is designed for players with different gameplay styles and preferences to explore the world how they see fit. This message was accompanied by a new image stating that the game will take 20 hours to complete the main story, 80 hours to finish the main story and all side quests, and then 500 hours to max out the game with all choices and endings, checking every place on the map, every dialogue, and finding every collectible. And you look at this, and that's just, I don't know, I think it's kind of absurd, but the main thing that and I kind of also wanted to talk about was, are all these open world games kind of moving into this space where they think more hour equals better gameplay. And one of the things you just got to point out is that how 500 hours to choices and endings, like how many endings are going to be in this game? Who really is going to play this game 5 more times just to get more dialogue? When you play these big open games, it's about the content. It's about getting the new quests. It's about finding new abilities or things like that. To say that it's 500 to read every piece of dialogue, to me, is just extremely underwhelming. Every collectible, well, how many collectibles are in this? Every ending, how many endings are in this to warrant 500 hours? Now, I still think 20 hours sounds about right, and it sucks that they kind of got this backlash, because, again, I think they are just proud that they have this big game, but I don't know if Dying Light 2 is a game that warrants being 500 plus hours. How did you look at it?
I think it's the same way. I think when they boast that, it sounds like a quantity over a quality type situation. Because I know that people like Dying Light 1. You are a big fan of Dying Light 1. Surprisingly, I didn't like it. I never heard you say anything about the story. Like, man, the story is fucking great.
It's fantastic.
No, the gameplay is good. That's all I ever hear is the gameplay's good. The gameplay's good. So if this game comes out and it's a 7, not that a 7's bad by any sort of score or anything, at what point do you draw the line as a studio saying, well, maybe instead of putting 500 hours, we should have created a grade A 10 story with 200 hours of grade A stuff to do and taken that extra time we did for the other 300 hours and invest that in everything else in the game. And that's kind of where I draw the concern for stuff like that. Is I get that there's people who only buy 1 or 2 games a year and they want to get lost in this and do absolutely everything, but wouldn't you want to give them the best experience possible? And something like that to me doesn't speak to that. That doesn't say we created this 10 out of 10 game, now we're adding to it. It's we created this okay game and we're just building around it and just putting as much shit in there as we can. Let's get the kitchen sink in there too.
Well, yeah, because the thing I was looking at is there's certain games that are big. When you look at Bethesda, when they make Skyrim and they make Fallout, these games, when you get them, they're going to be big games that you can play for a while. I was actually looking at my friend's stat list on how games like this would work and how many hours people put into this. And if you look at a game like Skyrim, there's a difference between gamers who like to explore and we do. We explore. We like to get as many achievements as we can. We play it. We're done. And then there's the diehards and the content creators who live in these worlds.
Right.
And when I was looking at Skyrim, and I have a pretty decent list of friends on my Xbox that play these games. The biggest player that I had on there had 30 days worth of time, which is equal to 720 hours in Skyrim, which is more than what they're saying it is to collect everything. But Skyrim, we know, is a big, gigantic game, and that's the diehard playing it. The second player that was under them was way less than that. They only had 10 days worth of time in it, which is 240 hours, which is now less than half of what this game is saying that it takes to acquire. And what I wanted to compare it to was, when you have that much time in games like this, you usually want to lend that to an MMO, something that can grow, something that you can keep patching and adding that keeps players involved in the world. Where if there's flat out starting out at 500, then it's well, you're telling me day one all this stuff's already in it. Why did you not let this thing grow? Because when you look at a game like Elder Scrolls Online, the biggest person that I had on there had 131 days in it, which was over 3,000 hours of gameplay. But the next person I had was 35 days at 840. So if the game started off small and grew, then I could see it, because then you're patching things, you're adding things, you're redoing level caps, you're putting in new quests. The fact that it's already starting out this big, I don't know if that hurts it, because again, Dying Light 1 to me is a fantastic game, but I didn't put in more than I had to, and I just don't see this being the game where people are going to live in this world to explore $500 worth of content, especially when that content is all it is finding choice endings, places on the map, and dialogue options. None of that sounds like it's worth 500 hours when you compare it to games like Skyrim. When they add stuff, it's new quests, it's new races, it's new characters, it's
new regions,
new ability, new regions, new maps to unlock. So the difference of games like that in this open world space to me seem night and day. One, extremely worth it. The other one, I'm not trying to listen to every dialogue option, so I don't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, too, again, because I didn't really play. I played the first one a little bit, but not too much. I put maybe 5-10 hours into it, and then I dropped it. I've beaten Skyrim multiple times. I've beaten it 5-6 times, so that obviously equates to whatever amount of time, however fast I did it. But the difference is when I play Skyrim between something like this, when I play Skyrim, I played it the first time, I ran a sword and shield. Then I'll run 2 swords. Then I'll just be a straight up fucking magician and only use magic, and then I choose not to use weapons. Then I'll do a completely stealth build where I try not to fight anybody at all. I'll just assassinate people with daggers and a bow, and I'll try to sneak through every different way. And you can get way more creative than I have, but just in that's 4 completely different ways that you can play this game. Whereas Dying Light, I don't know if it has those sort of mechanics that, I remember when I was playing it, there's one way to play it. You're either fighting or you're running. That's really it. You're not sitting, you can sneak by stuff, but at some point you're going to have to fight something. It's not in the same vein as how you would play Skyrim, where how you build your character is changing completely the scenario on how you're fighting.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but that's the way I took it when I was playing. I was like, I don't really see how this could be much different. Like, it's cool and everything, but I don't know. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah, because in Dying Light, at least in the first one, you had a couple different skill builds, trees you could do. Like if you wanted to do more parkour or if you wanted to do more combat. But yeah, it's not like Skyrim where you can make completely different characters. You know, the weapons are still going to be the same in Dying Light. You know, there's not going to be this huge variety. So yeah, that was a good point that, you know, Dying Light doesn't have nearly as much customization as a game like Skyrim. That if you're going to play it again and get the second ending, you're probably going to use the same weapon twice if it's the best weapon in the game. You know, there's a difference between one using spells and then a sword, where this one's like, okay, I'm still going to use my bat with the blade on the end of it.
Fuck, even in like Skyrim, or even a better example, like Outer Worlds, like I could play that game and there's people that are hostile, but I could talk my way out of every situation and not fight if I choose not to. You could beat Outer Worlds without having to kill a single person, just talking your way through it.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty cool little thing when you found out you could do that. But what I wanted to jump into more is, do you think this is a problem with games that are open world becoming these, like they're just trying to boast that they have all these hours? Because even when we just played Aliens. That game couldn't have taken us more than 6 hours or so.
Right.
And then Halo, when we beat it, there's an achievement for beating it in under 8, which I think you did. Because then people complain that games are too short and that it wasn't worth my $60 to beat this campaign. So it's kind of this double-edged sword where it's like they want to justify the means of buying a game for $60 and getting your money's worth. But when you do get a game that's under 10, it seems like people complain about it, even if the campaign is good. So
like
I'm just trying to figure out, because Halo, they got a lot of good reviews, but a lot of people are like, oh, I'm glad I didn't buy that because it was so short. But it's like, well, what did you want it to be 500 hours? So I'm kind of having a hard time where we draw the line. I think 500 is kind of egregious when it comes to a franchise like Dying Light. I don't know if they're not known for that. You know, if the next Bethesda game comes out, when Starfield comes out and it says 500 hours, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm getting myself into. I've played Fallout, I've played Skyrim, I get it. Dying Light 2, so because it's kind of what Assassin's Creed turned into.
Doesn't need it, yeah.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla is this huge game with endless things to do, but it's repetitive. It's the same fetch quest. It's the same go talk to this person or this person or this person or this person.
My least favorite one.
And when I looked at my hours on that, even that I only had 80 hours in it. So I guess I just can't imagine myself wanting to play that much Dying Light unless they do something, unless this comes out and it's not what we think, or it's not fetch quest. You know, if the content is something that we just haven't seen before and it's worth it, then I'm behind it. But on paper, it doesn't seem like it's going to do that at all. And I don't know how many times I can keep playing games like this where I'm just repeating quests with a new skin on it. So
all I can really say for sure is if this game comes out and that story is not a 10 out of 10 story, doesn't matter about the gameplay, let's say the game gets like an 8 in general, whatever. If that story is not a 10 out of 10 and it's boring as fuck, this game is going to get hammered. Because then what were you doing the rest of that time? Fleshing out all this extra shit that you didn't need to. Like, at some point, it's too much. Because let's say you built a 100-hour game that's just that good. Like, Skyrim's far more than 100 hours. Oblivion, all that stuff, they're far more than 100 hours. But it was that good that I played it multiple times. And so I got 500 hours out. I could get 500 hours out of it if I wanted to by replaying it multiple times and doing it, or I could do it the one time and fully whatever. I don't know how long it would take to do everything in Skyrim because I don't turn over every cave and read every book, but I enjoyed it that much that I replayed it again and again. And it wasn't so much, granted the story can be a little weaker, a lot of the other shit to do is fun, like the guilds, the Thieves Guild, the Black Hand.
Living in that world.
Yeah, living in that world and doing that shit.
Building a house and stuff like that. I mean, there was more options to do than just run around and do a quest.
Yeah, than a world where you're just running, you're either running or you're fighting from zombies. I can't imagine that you're in it. Like, that's the thing, too, is I didn't play the first one, so I don't know that you have these villages set up where, like, okay, I can take my time talking to each villager trying to solve all these quests. It just looks like you're running from point A to point B, but you have your handful of survivors. That's really it.
Yeah, the one thing I want to point out too is that this game, if everyone remembers, has been delayed 4 times. And if this is the reason that it's been delayed, it was to keep adding more content, then it's kind of, in my mind, it was the wrong direction, because DLC exists for a reason. That's the reason you get people when they beat it one time to then come back and play it again. Skyrim launches every time and everyone buys it because there's a little something new in it every time. It adds this. The fact that this game, because now what happens when this game does launch DLC? You're telling me this game's going to add another
600 hours?
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's a lot, and I'm curious to see. I don't want these games to keep moving into these big things that require you to take a lot of time. I've hated it, and I've been saying this for a while. I hate that Assassin's Creed has moved into that kind of territory,
right?
And now Dying Light is moving into that territory. So Dying Light 1 was awesome, but it was a smaller game. I understand they want to make it bigger, better, and more appealable to people that want to just buy the one game every 6 months and play that. I get it, but I don't think every franchise needs to do it. And the more we see it, the more we're gonna just kind of, because it makes you not play less. I get that that's what they want you to do. They want you to stay in their world, but I like to play more games, and there's just no way I'm putting 500 hours into a game like Dying Light 2. So, is there anything else you want to add on that?
No, and I agree with the Assassin's Creed,
Dude,
completely.
I got tired of playing it because I'm just like, it's the same, it's repetitive. I'm doing the same thing.
I think Origins was maybe the right size because it wasn't too big. Odyssey's where it really kind of got to that. And I remember beating Odyssey as much as I love that game. There was like a couple whole islands that I didn't even fucking visit and I don't know anything about or what was up there. But I remember thinking like, damn, like maybe if you had just taken off that chunk of the map and taking instead of your time there and really taking your time with some of this other stuff, even though that's one of my favorite Assassin's Creeds, I maybe would have loved it that much more.
Yeah, I mean, Far Cry does a really good job of taking big worlds and doing things like that. I mean, there are franchises that can do it. I don't know if Dying Light needed to be one of them. So, with that done out of the way, guys, leave your comments down below what you think about Dying Light and the controversy of these big open world games demanding a lot of your time. And let us know what you think about the PlayStation's sales. So, we're going to move into ripping it up, where we take some smaller stories and just bring it to your guys' attention. Andrew,
I'll go first.
First or second? Start it up.
So my riff is that they announced a Hitman Trilogy that's going to be 2016's Hitman, 2018's Hitman 2, and 2021's Hitman 3 is going to be dropping on January 20th. That's actually pretty cool. As much as I don't play those games, that looks like that's a pretty cool package for a pretty cool value. Now, what's even better is that's going to launch across the gambit on PlayStation 4, everything else. But on Xbox and PC, if you have the Game Pass, it is going to be dropping on the Game Pass. So that is going to be something that's free to you. And for anyone else who maybe hasn't gotten to play it, maybe what might be a little more exciting for some people, is that's actually the end of the 1 year exclusivity deal for however that works with the Epic Games Store. That game is going to be, I think it's Hitman 3, is going to be able to be played on like Steam and any other sort of web services or anything like that you use on PC. So if you didn't play it before because you didn't want to fuck with the Epic Games Store, that's going to be your chance. And this might be like, this actually seems like a pretty cool little bundle. I actually didn't see what it's priced. I can't imagine it's more than $70, but even so, it's $70 with how I've heard people talk about these games. It seems like a crazy deal.
Yeah, because me and Andrew have almost bought this game a few times. Like when it came out, because
we've been talking about it.
It came out last year, early in January, and a lot of people, I don't want to say anyone felt that it was like snubbed at all, but there was a lot of people that said this should have at least been in the run for a lot of people's game of the year. Like, it's that good. Hitman 3 kind of reinvented itself, and it's got this whole new kind of way to approach the game, and I've been dying to play it, and I've literally almost bought it. It went on sale.
You wrote me like a week ago.
Yeah, because it was on sale for like $20, and I was like, dude, I really want to play this game. And then I didn't do it because I'm like, I got enough to play. When I get to Hitman, I'm sure it'll be on sale again. Now that it's coming to Game Pass, it's another one of those things where it's like, I don't know what to expect anymore, what's going to be on Game Pass anymore. So it makes it tougher to buy games. IO is also making that new GoldenEye game, the James Bond game. And it's like, am I going to buy that day one? Or do I wait 6 months to a year and just hope that it's going to be on Game Pass and play it? So I don't know, man. The Game Pass is still this thing that's like, it keeps surprising me every time I hear something new, because it just did, now that the Mass Effect Legendary Edition is on there, I'm glad we didn't buy that. Now that Hitman 3, the trilogy is on there, I'm glad we didn't buy that. So I don't know, I gotta be more weary when I see things go on sale to buy, because I'm like, give it 2 more weeks and I'm sure it'll be on Game Pass.
All I can really say is, like, once PlayStation drops whatever their thing is, Spartacus, whatever they're going to call it, they have some, like, crazy big shoes to fill, because if this thing's not even close to being what Game Pass is, people are going to talk shit.
Yeah, so let us know what you guys think of the Hitman Trilogy coming to platforms on the 20th of January. So my riff, guys, and it's not video game related, but it is game related due to it being a trading card game, is that there's been the story going around that Logan Paul had the Pokemon scam that he spent $3.5 million on a box of first edition Pokemon card booster packs. It was said to be the biggest purchase of all time. Now, he bought it, I believe, off this guy named Matt, which is like a friend of his. He's a big trading card guy and baseball collector guy. He bought it for $2.7 million and then sold it to Logan Paul for $3.5 million. Now, the potential that could have been in this thing was well above $8 million plus, depending on what cards could have been in it, being, the first editions. I think the biggest card right now is the Charizard that's going for $150,000. So this thing had potential to more than double his money. So if it was legit, it would have been kind of an interesting gamble to see what he would have got. And he even had the owner of the BBCE, which is the Baseball Card Exchange, check the packaging that it was shipped in. They were checking that the grooves on it matched the sticker, that the taping on it was all correct. There's a 7-minute video on YouTube you can watch that actually, I'll put in the link in the description, that'll kind of walk you through this story. But when the fact that they finally opened it, the moment they opened up the package, then they saw the boxes, they're like, oh, we did it. But when they started looking at them closer, you could just see that these boxes were like fake or just, garbage ass reprints of it. And by the time they opened it, it was full of G.I. Joe trading cards. So this was like one of the biggest scams of all time when it comes to Pokemon and trading cards. From what I know, he did recently get refunded, so he did get his 3.5 back. But dude, that would have been a crazy deal. If it had have went through, and he did have, because it would have been the only one in existence. It would have been the only sealed first edition packs in existence. So it would have been historic in one way, but it's also completely historic that it's now like one of the biggest ripoffs of all time.
Right. Now that's what's crazy about it, is they were saying that it's the only one of its kind. Not that it's the little for those of you who don't know, it's not the actual Pokemon pack where you open it and there's like 6 boosters in there and you open it. It was the fucking box they ship it into a store. So a brown box with a fucking sticker on it to where you can't even tell what's inside. That was supposed to be the big draw. Because I was even thinking about it, because we were talking about it. I was like, I don't really get how it would be devalued if you open up that brown box and you pull out the actual the big boosters that are wrapped themselves, that are still sealed, how that would go down in value versus this box is sealed. Because now, to me, it just sounds like you're buying a fucking mystery box. So you still can't confirm what's in there versus I don't get where that value comes from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Because I was thinking the same thing. But obviously, we're not big card collectors. We do more like comic books and stuff. So it's hard for me to go to know when the value is depreciated just from the packaging. Because there's no way I would want to buy a brown box that has a seal on it instead of actually seeing the actual Pokemon box, and then maybe watching it box.
What's the point of buying it anyways?
I'm
You're
sure
not
there's
going to do
something
anything
there that we don't know about. But when they had an official guy look at it, everything looked legit. But there was a lot of people online, like other fans and collectors, they were pointing this box out from the beginning. They're like, this thing looks off. This thing looks wrong to me.
I've seen some people saying they wouldn't even ship that many altogether.
Yeah, well, did he ship it or did they go pick it up?
No, that within that box, they would not have filled it to the brim. Whatever he was saying it weighed like, that it wouldn't be that heavy because they would not ship that many things together on a trip to fucking whatever store, wherever the fuck they do that.
So if anyone doesn't know who Logan Paul is, he's the guy that got him and his brother were really famous YouTubers, and he's the guy that's recently been doing a lot of like the kind of celebrity fights with like Floyd Mayweather and a lot of like some old MMA fighters. So he's got, he's got the cash. I mean, but he's not crazy $100 million rich. He's probably like $35 million rich. He's probably in that, which is still solid. So spending,
I'd say they're probably above that.
So spending 3 point something on it is still quite a bit of change. You know what I mean? But I guess I'm glad he got refunded. At least he didn't get screwed hard. He got his money back.
I would say
even the guy that sold it to him, he got screwed.
I would say even if you don't like him, because I'm not like a crazy big fan of them or anything like that, I would go watch this video because it's very interesting to see them like open it and the breakdown and how they discuss whatever, especially if you're into Pokemon at all. I would definitely recommend go watching it.
Nice. So leave us your thoughts down below, guys, what you think of Logan Paul and the Pokemon card scam. So with riffs out of the way, guys, we're going to move into questions of the week, and we just have one question today, and like I said, it's from earlier. So this question comes from Chris Trejo, and they write, I agree with the Boba Fett talk for the most part. Andrew and I and my brother episode or two ago, we're talking about Boba Fett, how I kind of thought it was a little lackluster so far. I think you were actually really enjoying it. So they continue to write, but have you seen Peacemaker yet? What are your thoughts? And I kind of forgot Peacemaker was coming. It actually just launched on January 13th, so a few days ago. And if you're looking to watch it, it's on HBO Max. And it does. I like what they do. They launch 3 episodes at a time, and then they go the week to week. So it's got a good chunk. Because when I was watching it this morning, the first episode was done. I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. Now I'm going to have to wait another week. And then I looked again. And I'm like, oh, there's 2 more episodes to watch. So if you are looking to watch it,
I like that.
It's a good chunk to start with. And I got to say, it's, in my mind, it's hilarious. John Cena is like fantastic in this role. So light spoilers, if you guys don't want to hear it, cut to the end. You can see where the end of the episode kicks in and the timer. But it does pick up after the Suicide Squad movie. So it is a sequel. A lot of people thought it was a prequel of how we became Peacemaker, but no, it's actually right after the movie takes place. So it has that Suicide Squad feel. The cool thing that I was reading up about it is that James Gunn, who actually did the Suicide Squad, wrote this thing in 8 weeks as like a joke. He did it during the pandemic while he was quarantined. I don't know if he was sick or anything, but like while everyone was in lockdown, wrote it, and it actually got picked up. And dude, John Cena is hilarious. The eagle named Eagly in this thing, dude, is hilarious. There's a scene where they're listening to the music. It's got a killer soundtrack, a bunch of like 70s and 80s rock. They're like cruising down the street with their heads out the window, and the fucking eagle like closes his eyes, opens his beak, and his tongue starts like flapping in the wind. It's extremely funny. The intro, and I showed Andrew earlier. The intro is like this weird, hilarious like dance number that they do. Robert Patrick pops up in this. If you guys don't remember him, he's T-1000 in the old Terminator T2 movie. So you kind of see his background. That's his father, and you find out this dude's like this racist, like piece of shit kind of guy, but he's extremely intelligent with technology, and like that's who builds all of like his gear and stuff like that. And there's a really cool scene that they go and show you. Everything feels right about this show. The only thing I don't like, and again, this is just my opinion, is there's a character called, I forget who she plays, but the actress Danielle Brooks is in it. She's the chick from Orange is the New Black. And when you watch this, let me know if you feel the same way, or if anyone's listening. I just don't think she fits in this. Like, when she talks, she pulls me out. I don't think any of her like jokes are funny. Like, I think she falls flat, but especially I'm just comparing it to everyone else in the show. Like the Vigilante, hilarious. John Cena steals every scene that he's in. She starts getting it because she's a pivotal character, so she is going to be in this show, and when you watch it, you'll find out why. But I'm like, I don't know. She's, to me, is the weakest link out of a pretty much hilarious show. I mean, as of right now, we were talking about earlier, I'm liking it more than I am the Book of Boba Fett. I'm having more fun with it, at least, to say that. You haven't watched it yet? You're going to start this weekend?
Yeah, I'll probably start it this weekend.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to what you think.
I did watch the Book of Boba, though.
The new Book of Boba, it took 3 episodes, and the 3rd episode was probably the best one so far.
I loved it. It seems like it's a big setup for going for the future, but that's talk for another time.
Yeah, it's definitely talk for another time. But to answer your question, Peacemaker, I actually really enjoyed it from the first episode, and this is what shows are supposed to do. You shouldn't have to wait 3 episodes, 4 episodes to be like, oh, now it's good. Like, no, the first episode is hilarious. It's funny. And I think so far it's one of DC's best opening shows that they've had. So if you're interested in checking it out, again, that's on HBO Max. So that is the end of episode 119, guys. So until episode 120, my name is Craig Perales. That is Mandrew Montemayor. Did you finish them all?
It's like right here.
There, boy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, Eternals is on Disney Plus now. Did you ever watch it?
Nah, I've seen that it's on there, though.
I haven't seen that. I want to watch that. And I'm behind on all, like, the kind of the newer ones. I haven't seen Soul. I haven't seen Encanto.
Soul was dope.
And then what's the other one that's like Coco? So the Book of Life. I haven't seen that one. Oh, and I never saw Lucas either. Like, I'm behind like on 4.
I watched Lucas.
Like, big ones.
I think I didn't really care for it.
It's the mermaid one, right? Like the kid that swims in like Italy.
Yeah.
I think Deandra started watching it, and I like fell asleep during it. So I was like,
I think I don't remember it like being that intriguing, but I really like Soul a lot. Like Soul is fucking.
Oh, you wiping it off with you sleep because of that last one?
No,
these ones are actually really clean.
I do that with like all like canned drinks now. Like just as well as I can. I mean, my mouth goes there. It takes an extra second. Who knows where these fucking things have been sitting with rat piss.
Dude, do you see, I don't know if you have Ryan on your Facebook, but...
Ryan Sims?
No, Niederberger?
No.
His, he went to go get, like, an Arizona iced tea or some shit, and he saw, like, something, like, goo floating on it, so he fucking cut it open, and there was, like, a whole bunch of shit, like, at the bottom of it, and he's like, dude, I'm never fucking, like, buying these again. And I guess other people have reported, like, the same thing from them.
Where'd you get it from?
I don't know, one of the gas stations. I'm like, I'd fucking sue, dude.
I don't drink. That's...
But then ever since then, I'm just like worried how like it could be really in anything. You wouldn't know.
I forgot who me and someone else were talking about the other day. And we were talking about like Capri Suns, and it's like, dude, I really don't like drinking like shit that's like closed like this anymore. Like even if I get a soda, I would prefer to pay the extra money and get the fucking bottle because I can see what's inside.
Yeah,
of it.
right through it.